the concept of storytelling is so important when we talk about how do we integrate compassion and how do we create these different elements of understanding different perspectives and putting diverse aspects around the models that we create when it comes to AI. And so to bring in another lens on storytelling, creativity, and imagination, I want to kind of go into a fireside chat. And this fireside chat, I'll be joined by a gentleman by the name of Justin Breen. And it's so funny because we actually connected through another platform back in 2021. And when June put us in contact, we were like, oh, wait, hold on. We actually know each other. So it's just kind of a full circle moment for me on how we actually got reconnected. But it seems like that's how the world works, right? Is that you do the work, you go out and you kind of are these tentacles of the same ideas, and you do your thing individually, but individually it comes back to the collective. And so Justin Breen, he's the co-founder of CORvia AI and author of the best-selling book, Epic Life. Justin's career has consistently bridged entrepreneurship, media, and creativity, showing how powerful networks as well as narratives can transform not just businesses, but also lives. His upcoming book, Epic Journey, which features an introduction by Dr. Deepak Chopra and will be adapted into a documentary narrated by Gary Sinise. Explores how stories shape human flourishing and how imagination guides us into new futures. Justin has also been recognized globally for not only his imagination and his narrative abilities, but ultimately looking at how imagination guides us into new futures, right? So he's the co-founder and CEO of the Epic FIT network, or FIT network, named one of the top 5 masterminds on the planet by Business Traveler USA. At the heart of his work is the belief that narratives are technologies in themselves, that they carry culture, they carry values, and possibilities across generations. With CORvia AI, Justin is exploring this truth directly, really creating a platform that teaches people how to make music with AI. So through this, he is not only opening doors to creative expression, but also showing how technology, when designed with imagination and care, can amplify human potential. So in this fireside chat, we'll explore, and I'll explore with Justin, the power of story, creativity, and imagination in guiding AI with compassion, and how music, and particularly narrative and innovation, can help us dream into a more flourishing future. So I'd like to welcome Justin to the stage, and welcome.
That was a great intro. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Definitely, definitely. So maybe just to start off, Justin, as we get into this fireside chat, I want to ask you, kind of what led you to where you are now, and what are some of the things that you think of on a day-to-day basis when it comes to AI and compassion?
Well, one, I appreciate that question. Two, I had sent you an article a little before this if you want to post it so everyone can see it, just how I kind of observe things. And I actually don't do a lot of thinking, actually feel things. And then if I feel something is right, then I think about it. But basically everything comes from my heart, intuition first, and then my brain kicks in. And then have found most people think and use IQ and not necessarily their EQ or SQ, which is spiritual quotient, and then create things based on overthinking as opposed to feeling anything. And so you have government, finance, religion, the law, the economy, war, so it's due to overthinking and not so much feeling anything. So I think a lot of the problems would be solved if people actually felt things first and then did some thinking. Oh, thanks for posting that. And then real quick, I'll share this. I found that children are much smarter than adults usually, not always usually, because they haven't been conditioned by society yet. So my 10-year-old, well, he's 11 now, but if you can see this, my 11-year-old son, Chase, drew this when he was 10. Can everyone see this? Hopefully, but and so the previous two speakers, Valeria and Pico, they're the Mother Earth source of life and reflection. I could hear it. I'm this grandfather, great spirit, just kind of floating around, and then the world needs the neutral moons as well. And then geometry, even though Chase spelled geometry wrong, and consciousness, but geometry unlocks consciousness. So those are the kinds of things I talked to my two sons about. And then we discussed these things. So I found that's a more interesting thing than talking about youth baseball or youth soccer, football on a consistent basis. But in terms of answering your question, how I got here, my father was 61 when I was born, and my mom was 27. Uh, and my father was a World War II hero, got down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute, and would just get back into another plane. So that's my litmus test of that's just my litmus test. You either can do that or make an excuse. And then he met my mom after a drunk driver hit him in his late 50s. The drunk driver was killed instantly. My dad survived, broke essentially every bone in his body, but survived. And then he woke up, thought he was dead, and my mom was an angel, but my mom was his night nurse. And so that's how they met, and that's why I'm here. So I don't believe in randomness, just think things are meant to be, and then was born with this story at that type of level. So most of my day is listening to and connecting with the top visionaries on the planet or those who don't make excuses, and then spend 90% of my time just listening to them and then create patterns or books or songs or articles based on what I've learned. So I don't really talk that much unless people ask me questions. I'd rather listen to what they have to say.
Definitely. Well, we didn't have to talk much in actually connecting on being a 6-2 manifester, so I totally get it. So you've built a career on stories, networks, as well as creativity, and now you're working at the intersection of music and AI. So to start us off, like let me ask you a question. Why do you think music is such a powerful force when paired with technology, specifically AI?
Well, great question. And then just as context background, I have no background in music, don't play any instruments, have very little background in AI, but always thought, even before I started using AI, that the main role of AI would be self-care. We've heard multiple discussions already about mental health, so I thought AI would be a fast track into your own heart, into own mental health. And then late last year, I started writing poems and then posting them online. One of my friends is a top music producer based in Nashville, and she's like, "Oh, hey, why don't we start writing songs?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." And then was at a Thanksgiving party, and people were talking about things that I wasn't interested in. So I was like, "Oh, is there a program where I can plug some of my lyrics into it, and then it could create a song?" And then found sunoai.ai, plugged one of my lyrics into it. It produced two versions, and the second one was uh, I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. And so I'm like, oh, this would be interesting. And wound up talking to one of my friends who we both discovered that music is like a fast track into your own heart, into your own soul. Somehow the technology, the AI is able to do that. I don't know how it's able to do that, but it just does. And then we're like, oh, let's create a company based on that. And the company's called CORvia AI. COR is heart. That's the Latin word for courage, heart. And then via is path. So CORvia means heart path. So we're excited to scale that. And basically, we teach people how to make songs with AI because we found that it's the best, quickest way to become your own artist and also create a path into your own heart very quickly. It's really fascinating.
I love that. That's beautiful. In this forum, we're talking a lot about AI and compassion, how technology can deepen human connection rather than strip it away, right? So
Yeah.
when you founded CORvia AI, what inspired you to create a company around teaching people to make songs with AI? Was there a moment that clicked for you, or like kind of when was that moment where it was just like, yes, this is what we actually need?
Well, there were several. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. The real moment, like, let's actually create a company out of this is I had written a song to myself, like my inner child, and then I sent it to my co-founder Eric, and we're like, oh, like this is a way to heal your own inner childhood trauma. And so we're like, and he's a visionary like me, who again follows his heart and does very little overthinking. So we're like, oh, let's create a company based on this. So that was the main moment. And then the other thing, what we've learned from doing these workshops, and then me teaching people one-on-one or in workshops, is that 100% of the time, 100%, someone cries in it. And then two, all they need to do is hear these songs and they're like, oh my God. So it's that powerful. And then two things from that. One, I write my own song lyrics very quickly. The other music company I have, my co-founder is one of Peter Gabriel's main producers. Peter Gabriel's most famous song is "In Your Eyes," and then he's taking some of the songs I've actually written and having humans make them, because we don't want to replace human musicians. We want to collaborate with them. AI, we don't want to have AI completely replace them. Um, and then the second thing with that is that AI can very quickly, whether it's through ChatGPT or CORvia, it can easily create lyrics without you having to do that. So CORvia teaches people how to make lyrics and then turn it into music without you having to really do anything other than saying how you feel or talk about a particular moment in your life. So it's a multi-pronged approach that, again, you don't have to, spend weeks or months creating a song. You can spend 5 minutes just talking about how you feel, and then it spits out this beautiful artwork.
That's really brilliant. I guess, from your perspective, how do stories and narratives act as technologies in themselves, right? And how can they help guide AI toward, deeper human connection?
I never thought or felt that a story was its own technology, but that's a really profound way of looking at it. And that's why I'd rather listen and like to do these type of things, because you always learn something new. That's a really good way of looking at storytelling. It's its own technology. So that's what I'm going to be focused on right now. What you said, not even the question. That's how my heart and brain work. And what I found with storytelling is a couple of things. One, everyone has a story. I haven't met one person. It's funny because I've written 3 books, and then many times people are like, "Oh, I don't think I have a book in me," or "I don't think my life's worthy of a book." I always laugh because it's like, well, of course it is, but because it is, because everyone has a story. But then what I found is from talking to visionaries or people that are aspiring visionaries, there are only 4 things, because my brain turns everything into patterns, but there are only 4 things that separate visionaries or aspiring visionaries from everyone else. There are only 4 things. Only 4. So one is bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. 2 is depression. 3 is the highest level of anxiety you can imagine. And then 4 is trauma as a child or young adult. So since COVID, not counting the silver spoons, I know a lot of silver spoons are folks that were born very wealthy, but not counting those, almost everyone I talk to, I'd say well over 90% of the people I talk to are all 4 of those. Um, and then certainly everyone that I talk to now is at least 3 of those 4 things. I can't even remember the last time I talked to someone who's not a silver spoon that is less than 3 of those 4 things. So visionaries are, again, 3 or 4 of those things, and then they have the highest IQ, highest EQ. They have the best coping skills. The word cope means to fight, Latin word mean to fight, so they have the highest fighting skills. So they're able to overcome those 4 things with IQ and EQ and again, spiritual quotient as well. So that's really what separates visionaries from everyone else.
I love that. I love that answer. As we kind of expand on that kind of narratives as a technology, in this form, we've talked a lot about the Japanese principles of wa, right, which is harmony, and the ma, which is reflection. And
Mm.
music embodies both of those things, right? Rhythm and silence, right? And so, how do you see AI supporting harmony and reflection in the way that we create and connect?
Tremendous question. So again, with no background prior to this in music, other than playing the trumpet for like 3 weeks, and I was terrible at it in fourth grade, and then very little background in AI other than some very interesting entrepreneur groups, where they're the top AI people in the world, and I listen to them. Um, what I found with music specifically, after feeling it, is that music, and I know you as an anthropologist, you'll appreciate this, but music actually predates the spoken word by around 10,000 years. Um, so the first spoken language they've determined is about 50,000 years ago in Africa. And then the current instrument that they found dates back 60,000 years ago. It was a cave bear bone with 4 holes drilled in it. So it's like a flute. And they found it in a cave, which is, I believe, in what's now Croatia. So music is our original communication method. It's how we used to communicate exclusively before spoken word. And so that's like the IQ answer to that. The EQ is music somehow, like I'll give you an example like this. And I talked to a lot of top musicians and songwriters in the world, and exclusively they say they just can kind of feel these lyrics, and it's the same when I write songs too. You can just feel it in the ether. I write songs in 5 minutes. Like I can hear the lyrics, so I just feel them and then spit it out. And so it comes from a place that is beyond logic. It's beyond IQ. I can't explain that other than it just comes into my heart. And again, talking to, top musicians in the world, that's where it comes from. And it was a really interesting thing. One of my good friends who's a collaborator with CORvia, he's Aerosmith, the band Aerosmith. For those that don't know, that's a very famous rock band. But he was their longtime manager and helped them with the Pump tour. Pump is one of their most famous albums. And so I was sending him some of my songs, and he's like, "Oh, it's so great, it's so great that you can produce these songs so quickly." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And I'm like, "Well, so how come sometimes top artists or whatever they struggle to do that?" And he goes, "Oh, well, you need to understand something. So if it's coming purely from a place from your heart, then it's easy to do it. But then what happens with a lot of these groups and just things in general is money becomes involved, or you're told you have to write this song this way or do it this way or write on this topic, and then your heart and your soul are taken away from it and it becomes a commodity, and then it takes months, if not years, to do some of these songs. So it was a really interesting thing to hear what happens if that EQ is overtaken by the overthinking or the IQ. And that's really always stuck with me. And so that's why music is so important in its pure raw form, is it comes from a place that's beyond IQ or beyond what is in this material world.
That's so profound. That's so profound. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, and we're talking about compassion and we're talking about kind of where we are now. Um, but I want to ask you a little bit more about where do you see AI going in the future, right? Particularly in a positive direction.
Yeah.
So what do you think will be its main contributors or contributions per se to the human flourishing when it comes to AI and narratives and music?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. I'll answer like this. So, my next book, purely manifested. I take no credit for it. It came from a higher power, but essentially, it's about the rise of the divine feminine. And I never thought I'd be writing a book about the rise of the divine feminine. I didn't even know what that meant when I was writing it. And It's the alchemist and or little prince, but real. Essentially deconstructed slash destroyed my previous life to write it. Most people won't do that and do the internal work. And what I've learned over the last 18 months after starting to write that book, and then we heard it from our last two presenters, is that the world must embrace more of feminine leadership, regardless of gender. But essentially, the world is being controlled by masculine ego, whether it's finance, politics. Uh, I mean, you can hear it when women say they're fighting to get a seat at the table. So that's any vertical. That's any vertical. And so with AI and any vertical, but specifically AI and then music, because you asked, it's essential that that more women and more of the divine feminine um, have a seat at that table. And I strongly feel, strongly feel that's where we're headed towards society for sure. Um, it cannot continue in this way. It's not sustainable. It's not, with too much of the masculine ego. Yeah, you see what happens when that becomes involved. So that's where music comes into play as well. Is it for men specifically as well? It really helps embrace your divine feminine, which is like intuition and heart and creativity. And again, I never thought I'd be talking about this or writing about. I never thought that, but that's kind of what happens in life. Is you learn things, and then you learn from obstacles or those four things, and then you create something out of it.
Definitely. And my job as a curator is really to kind of tie and weave in, what it
Yeah.
means in a Latin American sense, right? So as we were talking about indigenous protocols throughout this segment, we're really talking about frameworks for living, right? So ways of making decisions that honor balance, respect, also as well as collective care. And music has always carried those same qualities, right? So, how do
Yeah.
you see the work of what you're doing with AI and music as being in the conversation with these deeper protocols, right? Of awareness, of honoring one another, as engaging in the design of compassion? Because it's like you can make a song with frequencies that has a very negative connotation, that has a very negative aspect on your energy and your spiritual soul, right? Or you can make music that actually uplifts and actually creates and designs in a fractal type of manifestation that actually develops something deeper and more meaningful. So maybe just talk about how indigenous protocols, can make that bridge between what's important in music and how we see that in the future.
It's great. Whether you're walking in a rainforest, where I live, I go to Lake Michigan's the closest big lake, which is a very large lake. So I walk to the beach quite a bit and walk around the forest preserves as well. So it's embracing that nature. But yeah, again, if you look at the music industry, and I don't have the percentages in front of me, but I mean, you just listen to the lyrics and listen to entire, song genres. It's extremely negative and violent in many of those things. And again, like I see it from a firsthand perspective because my sons who are 11 and 12, they listen to a lot of those songs and how negative they are. So, and again, the music industry, like most industries, are controlled by the masculine. So that's the most important thing is again, um, and it's a challenge too. It's a challenge too, but embracing that divine feminine, have more women leadership and have more women leadership. But, just really overseeing what is happening in the world. It's a really fascinating thing seeing how childhood trauma affects both men and women at a cellular level. And then it's overcoming generation upon generation of institutional trauma. So I think that's where music really can help bridge that gap into looking into your own self-care and then analyzing, your childhood or your parents or you trying to be a parent or a difficult job situation or what's going on in the world. Like it's such a wonderful, beautiful way of simply yet powerfully creating something that can heal your own heart and then to really look at things like and what the book is about is that the world's just a giant collective broken heart by people that have broken hearts. So it's individual broken hearts, not doing self-care, and then creating masks that just project broken hearts. And then so I just like you're a curator. I just curate that. And then if you're not a litmus test for the people you serve, that's hypocrisy. So I've done the deep healing inner work and then created things that hopefully help people also do the deep inner healing work. And music I found is, if not the best one, certainly one of the best things and best ways of doing that.
I love that. I love that. You know, so as we round off this fireside chat before we kind of get into opening up the panel, I want to ask you one more question. And so, if we think of technology as carrying a kind of memory, right? Much like songs or stories do. What
Mhm.
do you believe AI should remember from us as humanity? And what should it never forget? If we want it to truly serve compassion and flourishing, what are some of those things?
What should AI remember? I feel it like from this perspective, like you were NFL high level football player. I was at a Notre Dame game the other day. Great atmosphere, but I was talking to the woman I was with. I was like, 100 years from now, 100 years from now, they're gonna be like, how did they allow people to do this? Like, there's this can continue. People just literally concussing PTSD. Uh, like they're just like, how are they allowing this? I mean, obviously it's because of money. I understand that, but like 100 years from now, we're gonna remember like they actually allowed people to do this to themselves. I can't imagine the NFL is gonna be around 100 years from now. So it's from that context that I look at AI. I look at it and it's like, because we're at the forefront of like what this is actually going to do. Like you can certainly go down the dark path of the high IQ, no EQ, pure narcissistic, let's make money at any cost. It could go down that route, or it could go down the route of the heart led, like let's actually change the world and help people. Oh, and perhaps make money doing it. I've tried to care about material things. I just don't. For those that know what it is, I'm a life path 11. That's numerology. Never knew anything about numerology 18 months ago, but you go down this path, that's what happens. But 11s are the most spiritual. They don't care about material things at all. Uh, they try to, but you might want to look up numerology. But that's where we're at with AI right now. It's a very exciting time. I'm fully abundant no matter what. So I have full faith, and certainly from hearing the presenters today, that there are enough great high EQ leaders that will help steer AI into the right direction.
Thank you for that. This was a most enjoyable fireside chat, and I really look forward to having and continuing these conversations. And as I heard you speak, and I started to kind of piece things together. Um, AI, just as music, is a tool, right? It is a tool that we can actually utilize and produce in order to create something. Now, how we use that tool solely depends on how we approach it and how we design and our inner beings, right, as humans. And so, like, as we upgrade these design systems, from a technological aspect, we also need to actually upgrade the human aspect of our human operating system, right? So we are at a level where we are exuding and conspiring to create and design things that are meaningful, that are in harmony, that have
Mm.
the right spaces in between the notes that actually create that symphony, right? And so, it's my hope that there's enough people doing the work that have enough compassionate hearts to actually heal those broken hearts that you were talking about, right? That we can actually start to look at this opportunity in this space and time to actually understand how AI can be a tool of reconnecting, be a tool of resonance and resiliency, of compassion that brings us back into a space of connection between humans and planet and society.